Wow, match day 2 was something else, wasn't it? We did a video last week, guys, called the QV. You can see it here on the screen. Go and check it out. It's a new scoring system we've developed for valuing players for long-term holds, okay? It's in the reference points playlist. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, all that good stuff, guys. And let's get into today's video. Right, guys, I'm going to apologise in advance because I've got no idea how long this video is going to take, but over the last kind of month, 6 weeks, the channel's had some amazing growth on it, and there's a lot of people asking me in like DMs in public and stuff like that, just different questions about the portfolio I own and the strategies I run, and I try and make them all quite self-explanatory through the videos that we do, but I just want to take a step back and just walk you through what we've got and some of the key principles, some of the key elements that I follow certainly, and the success we've had off the back of that, okay? So if we have a look at the portfolio, I've organised everything by biggest hold, okay? And what I'm going to do is talk you through the 3 strategies I've got on the go now, and we'll balance them off with the QV value that we came out with the other day for evaluating longer term holds. I would always stress that's what that is kind of angled towards. It can offer you some short-term perspective and some mid-term perspective, certainly where somewhere can go, but that value is really for long-term significance. If you're going to be putting what you would deem, and every portfolio is different, what you would deem a significant amount of money into someone and deploy that, like I'm sure you won't mind me saying, okay, but as you've seen in the past, I've collabed with Connor at Football Manager, FI Manager, and his portfolio, like pound for pound, is fairly modest. I'm sure he'd admit that himself quite openly, but for him to own like 10 Raheem Sterling, that is like significant to that portfolio as a percentage, if that makes sense. So that's a great channel as well as mine for looking at a real portfolio from a normal person. It's not one of these whales you see on Twitter and all the other communities that kick about, Facebook and whatever as well. They've got mental size 200 grand. I seen somebody today with a 200 grand portfolio and it was like 33% up, you know, on his deposit, which is brilliant if you've got that money. But the reality is, if there's 400,000 users on the index or whatever it is, then a majority do not have that amount of money, that amount of capital, okay? So that's what that's kind of angled towards. If you're going to be deploying what you would deem a significant percentage of your portfolio towards somebody, that's to help guide you towards what is the absolute safest thing possible, okay? So first of all, I'm going to talk to you about the fantasy football strategy we've ran, okay? Now, this is probably the one you'll be most familiar with, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. I just want to touch on a few key elements, and I'll give you the QVs on all the players we're holding at the moment, okay? So the idea behind this strategy is to try and maximise the growth that players get from performing well in actual football matches, okay? So if you've been around for the last 2 match days at least, then you'll have seen firsthand how significant people can rise off the back of playing well, okay? Now, all of these players pretty much were picked up, yeah, with the exception of Dalbert and Pickford that we just bought at the weekend there. The rest of that team was put together in the summer months when the rest of the index was chasing media dividends and that type of thing. Now, don't get me wrong, a few of these players, actually none of these players to be honest. Oh, I bought Gomez thinking he might have went to West Ham, and I had Pepe since last season. I was hoping he would go to Liverpool. Joan Jordan, we picked him up after he went to Sevilla and he dropped because people thought he might have went to West Ham as well. And we picked up Trippier after he went to Atletico Madrid. He also dipped, and I just thought that was crazy. So I've held this portfolio, this section of the portfolio, this strategy has been live as you see it now in this iteration for a fair period of time, which is why the prices I have on them all are fairly attractive. So as I say, the idea of this is capturing the rises that players will get off the back of great match day performances. Now, we've been fairly fortunate that in match day 1 and 2, Trippier's done well, De Bruyne's done well, Jordan's done okay, Pepe's not featured, Pjanic hasn't started, Goretzka hasn't started, Muller was disappointing, and the Hertha game playing centre mid, and Munayer hasn't really done anything, okay? So it's been a modest start, but the growth as a strategy overall, okay, and that's what I'm going to get to as we go on with the video, okay, is you need to detach your mind from I have 50 Pjanic, I have 50 Jordan, I have 125 Dalbert. You need to see that as a collection of money, okay? In total, that fantasy football strategy is worth £593.96. And at the last time of recording, a transaction where I was putting money into that strategy, our outlay is £510, okay? So you can work out a gross profit on that fairly easily. Also, we've got dividends that stack on top of that as well, and a 2% commission to forfeit and whatever as well. But it's not far off. It's between 15 and 20% somewhere at a rough kind of equation. So when I'm looking at this, I see £510 deployed across these 11 positions, and I don't value it as, oh, do you know what? Miller's went a bit backwards, Mario Gomez hasn't really grown, or this, that, and the other. I'm waiting on these guys to play well. It's not going to happen every week. Every player's going to do amazing and score tons of goals. I'll hold them for as long as possible. Now, the strategy is angled towards picking players up with the best possible initial 30 days that you can possibly get your hands on, because it just maximises profit. This strategy is not angled towards just making profit off of IPDs and nothing else, but it's using that as a great foundation. So De Bruyne is now no longer eligible for IPDs on my strategy. I'm not going to be selling him anytime soon. What he's done is he's bagged me 3 assists and a star man midfield on a treble match day. So in that initial 30 days, it's given me a great platform percentage-wise and dividends returned. So I can now hold him really the rest of the season and not sweat it, and that is the angle that IPDs and the initial 30-day period that you hold them for is to give you. So those individual little cogs of the £500 become as safe and as solid as possible, as quickly as possible. So with Trippier, we get 1 assist, okay, which is 70 pence, which, I mean, you look at it, 60p a share when we picked him up. Basically, 1p to 1, it's 1.2 pence is his commission, but that 1 pence for that 1 assist that we bagged him for covers that commission virtually. And now, so the rest of the time I'll hold him, I'm kind of commission free, if that makes sense. Depends how you think of it, but that's the way I look at it, okay? So that's that strategy. And as you've seen on the last page, these are the kind of rules of engagement that I use for the fantasy football strategy. So it's not anything rocket science. I'm just trying to cover as many bases as possible. So I have the potential to win best defender. I have the potential to win best midfielder and best striker. I've got guys that are probably going to score goals over the next couple of days, and we'll have some growth, and I might see an opportunity elsewhere. And it just gives me a real fluidity. There's nothing worse than having a stock or holding a position that you can't sell for love nor money because they're doing poor. Nobody really wants to buy them. You think you were being clever when you bought them, but you really didn't think it through, and then you're kind of landed with them, and you need to do the dirty on them and quick sell them, and you're then just throwing money into the black hole of the index and feeding their pockets, okay? So the second strategy that we run is called backing a team, okay? Now this is kind of taking 2 guises on the portfolio as it sits right now, okay? So I'll come to the players that we actually hold right now. So the team that I'm backing this year is Leipzig, okay? And the reason I chose them, if you guys are new to the channel, you're not aware of this, right? It's going to be the last time I say it for a long time, right? But I'm a UEFA B licensed coach. I coach football. It's something that I'm pretty well versed in, right? And I'm a big fan of Nagelsmann. I mean, he gets the Leipzig job, and I could talk about football on this side of things all day, right? But that Leipzig project has been ticking along, waiting for a Nagelsmann type manager to come in and kick them up a level. When you compare Leipzig players to really any other Champions League team that are in a top 5 league, when I was picking them up in the summer, certainly, they were so underpriced it was untrue. We made some good profit on them, and we put all that money into Maddison, which is why we had 84 of them. We then sold, or 83, we then sold some of that money out, and we went and bought some more Leipzig players. And so we had a bunch of Leipzig players, we sold them all of them, put all that profit into Maddison at 291, who was undervalued at the time. We then released some profit out of the Maddison, and then we've deposited further funds, and we've went and we picked up 49 Hausenberg after the fact of him scoring goals and whatever, because I didn't think he would go back 6 pence. I thought where I bought him was quite safe, to be honest with you, but hey ho. We bought 50 Haidara, we bought 35 Sabitzer, we bought 30 Lookman, we bought 50 Forsberg, and with some of the dividends we earned at the weekend, we went and bought 10 Lamer. Okay, so I just see all these guys as being fairly undervalued. I'm not going to, I'll tell you what I've missed out. I'm not going to do the QV values for the RB Leipzig stuff, because that's me. I'm not looking at the individuals. I'm just backing a team that I think will be doing well. And I just want to buy as many of those players as possible, because they're a big rotation team. And it's just about finding them as cheap as possible, And you'll have that with a team yourself. Like, it might be Leicester, it might be Dortmund, it could be Barca, it could be City, it could be Liverpool, it could be West Ham, it could be Montpellier, it could be absolutely anyone. Lyon, there'll be a team out there where you think they're going to do amazing this season. And the mistake some people might make is they'll put all their money into, say, Memphis Depay. But if Memphis Depay gets injured, Lyon are still going to do well. You'd be much better placed rather than having, just in my opinion anyway, you diversify to an extent to safeguard your money, your investment, rather than having, say, 300 of Depay, £1,000 basically. You might have 100 Depay and then 100 Dewar, and then you might have 50 Denayer and 50 Thiago Mendes and 10 Cornet and 10 Terrier and 10 Toussaint, and you try and cover your bases because you're just backing that team. That's the idea behind that. Okay, so I'm not backing this player. I'm not backing Sabitzer to go on and win the Ballon d'Or, and I think he's going to go play for Real Madrid next season. I'm backing that team to do well this year, to play well, to blow teams out of the water, and to finish in the top 3 in the Bundesliga and have a good Champions League run. And that's all that really needs to be said about that. I'm going to go back and I'll show you the QV on the fantasy football stuff, okay, before I move into the last kind of little bit of the strategy, the third little strategy that we forgot. There's not much money involved in that one, to be honest with you. But when we're buying players for a specific purpose, like I'm putting this machine together, this is going to be a capital appreciation machine. They all need to have credible value. There's no point in me buying like a bunch of, Suarez, Falcao and Cavani up front, because they're not going to attract too much interest on the index. It's okay to have a Muller in there, but you need to have other players that are younger, a bit more exciting, and tick a few more boxes, okay? So we'll start with the goalkeeper. The QV value I've got for Pickford is 75, okay? So he's young, he's English. If he does leave Everton, it's going to be probably to like a Tottenham. That can, if they let Lloris, I was kind of thinking about it off camera, but a team, if he leaves Everton, the next step from Everton is upwards because of the age he is and the type of goalkeeper he is. He's English, he's in the England national team. They're not in Europe, which does hamper him, but he ticks a lot of boxes besides. Dalbert is the riskiest one in the portfolio. We've only really bought him because we see him earning some dividends for us on Monday night. And he has a QV value of 50, because there's no possibility, as we talk right now, he's not been linked to an English team. He's never been linked, as far as I can tell, to an English team. There's no likelihood of that happening anytime soon. They're in Europe. He's not European. He's not going to be playing in the Euros. He's got limited value. His value is basically he plays in Serie A for a top team, and he plays some European. He'll have European competition this year. We then have Trippier. And Trippier scores 74, okay? And that's obviously he's English, he's abroad. Again, if he was to leave Atletico Madrid, really the only way is up after being at Tottenham, moving to Atleti. He's only going to do better, getting more press attention because he's English and abroad and that kind of thing as well. Munayer rates in at 62. He's a bit older. He's in the French league, which isn't as competitive. And again, if he leaves PSG, he could move backwards. He's not in the prime of his career anymore. He could leave PSG and play for AC Milan, which I wouldn't consider that to be a forward step. He could leave PSG and sign for a Sevilla. I wouldn't consider that to be a forward step. He could leave PSG and sign for West Ham, Leicester, Arsenal, Tottenham. I think PSG is the pinnacle of his career. I don't see him going to Real Madrid, Barcelona, Man City, Liverpool. The top teams. When I move into midfield, Goretzka gets a QV value of 82, okay? He's young, he ticks all the boxes. If he does leave Bayern, it's going to be for a big team. He's not really been linked to anyone, so that's why he's not got 92, because I don't think there's a realistic chance that he's going to leave anytime soon. But I think links to him will come out, and we have a point scoring metric on the QV for the likelihood of him even being linked to a move. So he does earn his points there. Joan Jordan is similar again. He gets a QV value of 75. He was linked to West Ham and another Premier League team. I can't remember if it was Watford or Everton or somebody, but there's 2 Premier League teams after him. So again, if he does well, the likelihood of him being mentioned in the breath of a transfer window again is not impossible. He's young enough. He's in a good team. He's playing in Europe. He's European. He might get in the Spain team. I don't know how likely or unlikely that is at this point, to be honest with you, because Spain sometimes have some random inclusions, Kevin De Bruyne gets a score of 76. The only thing that's not going for him is I just don't see him being linked in a transfer. I don't see him going anywhere, and he's not English. That's pretty much the only things that go against him. And then we've got Pjanic. Pjanic gets a QV value of 51. Again, I don't see him leaving Juventus anytime soon. If he does, I don't see it being a step up. He plays in a lot of great competitions. Italy is the lowest value league that we have on the QV. He is European, he is Bosnian, and his age obviously is like 28 or something like that. So his QV is credible for match day dividends and stuff like that, but he's not somebody who is going to leave Juventus and, you know, play for, you know, Barcelona, Man City, Real Madrid, Liverpool, and go win the Ballon d'Or in the next fight. You know, he's at the he's in the prime of his career. The likelihood of him leaving and these other things that attract growth on the index are slim. We then move into the forward line. Muller's a 57. That probably doesn't need any explanation based on what I've explained to you already. Gomez is a 64, and then Nicolas Pepe is an 82. Obviously, he's in the English Premier League. He's a big player. He's slightly undervalued compared to other players in a similar position in similar teams. And yeah, so we're always looking for players that have that intrinsic value, okay? So Maddison is now a different strategy to the back in the team, okay? So Maddison gets a QV value of 87. The only things he doesn't get points for is playing in Europe and being at a top team at the moment. The likelihood of him moving there obviously is very high. He's only been linked to top teams in the past. And if he has a great season, which he's already started well, he's only going to be linked to bigger teams than Leicester, abroad or at home. Okay, and then the last little part of the strategy that we run, or the last strategy that we run to discuss, is random opportunities. Okay, now with Jovic, we could have held on a little bit longer, but with the international window coming up, Serbia have got some great fixtures. Zidane bought the guy, you know what I mean? So when Zidane does get up and running, the guy has to play for Real Madrid. You know, I don't know why Zidane would say spend 70 million, 60 million, whatever it was on this guy and Hazard and not give him a kick of the ball. So the guy's going to play at some point, as a matter of fact. And with even the international fixtures that Serbia have coming up, at the moment I see him as being undervalued. And as soon as he starts playing for Real Madrid, scoring a few goals, playing for Serbia, scoring a few goals, you'll easily see him return even to the level he was at when he was being linked to transfers in the summer. And when he was on the back end of his European run with Frankfurt, that 285 kind of level is 100% achievable, and that is a percentage. You're talking about 33% on where he's at right now. I've obviously bought him 5% more expensive, but that's something that I could sit on for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and if I can make 30% on that, then that adds to the profit that the portfolio runs on, and the strategy as a whole. So it's finding random opportunities with little spare bits of money and taking advantage of them as best you can. Otherwise, guys, that's the 3 strategies that we run. We're back in a team. We have a fantasy football-esque strategy to kind of maximize capital appreciation, and then we have a little pot of money that we flip about on random opportunities as and when we see them, okay? Previously on the channel, last thing I'll finish on, guys, previously on the channel we've run the People's Portfolio. That may come back in the future. It really just depends on my personal finances, because I don't want to hamper my actual portfolio by diverting funds into the People's Portfolio. It was great content and I really enjoyed making it, but I'm not made of money. And I think otherwise that's the only kind of strategy that you might want to check out some videos on, because those People Portfolio videos, we ran through tons of examples of players that you guys, the community, suggested for me to look at and buy, and a lot of them are doing great right now. So they're great videos to go back and look at. The People's Portfolio, okay guys? Please let me know in the comment section below anything you've liked about the video, the strategies that we spoke about, any questions you've got. I love the interactions from you guys, and I can always tell who's watching the videos and really getting the most out of it, because you do comment below and you really get stuck in. And this little subsection of the community that I'm involved in, you know, with the videos I run and who I chat to on Twitter and the guys that I collab with and whatever, is a great little pocket of the community. And you guys do amazingly well. Anyone who I talk to, you know, who's in the comment section or on Twitter with me or whatever, you are doing fantastic, and pat on the back, well done to you. If you're new around here, this is really for you guys, just to kind of spell out what I've got and what I do. The overall portfolio, it must be past the 100% profit mark now. The net deposits was something like 580 or something like that on my last deposit, maybe about 600-ish to now. So we're still around that double bubble mark, you know, which we're doing pretty well. And when you consider some of these positions like Lookman, Forsberg are behind, Haidara, Hausenberg, Jovic, you know, there's a bunch of positions there that are backwards that still have growth to come. And then guys like Maddison and De Bruyne and Pepe and Goretzka have a lot of growth ahead of them still. So we're sitting in a fantastic position, guys. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, all that good stuff, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye bye.